Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. We've been covering an empty vessel, Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips, who recently has been on a bit of a public crusade calling for other Democrats, corporate Democrats to be clear, to primary Joe Biden, calling for competition and sounding the alarm, rightly so, about Joe Biden's political vulnerabilities. Well, he just went on Meet the Press, and if you watched it, he seems like a real not so subtle secret spokesperson / liaison messaging for the donors. Let's take a look.
Sum this up right. You are not interested in being a candidate for president technically yourself right now, or are you?
That's a fair statement.
Okay.
What I'm technically and legitimately doing is representing. I'm a representative, and I'm representing what I believe to be the majority of the country that wants to turn the page. Tired of the meanness and the fear-mongering of Donald Trump. Would like to see Joe Biden, a wonderful and remarkable man, pass the torch, cement this extraordinary legacy.
You don't want him to run for re-election.
I believe what's in the best interest of the country. And by the way, this is not how everybody thinks, but I do believe a majority wants to move on. I hear from way too many people. Now, the news was that I was meeting with donors. The fact is I listen to normal Americans every day and my own feelings. And
is this all about age?
No, this is about how people feel.
Yeah, I'm not on here on Meet the Press. I'm not here going on show after show because the donors asked me to, because they're too chicken shit to call for alternatives to Biden or to just call for Biden to get out of the race. I'm here because I'm talking to the average Joe and Jane. I'm here because I care what the worker bees of America think. Not because I just went to New York City, met with some financiers, some corporate Democratic donors who begged me, hey, Dean, go throw your body on as a sacrificial lamb. We'll be there for you in the next cycle. You want to run for Senate? Hey, you want to run for president in 4 or 8 years? We'll back you up and make sure you are well financed in whatever future endeavors you want. That's clearly what's going on here, because that's how the corrupt party acts. And that's how this corrupt country operates in the United Corporations of America. But to be clear, I'm pretty sure Dean Phillips is speaking for the donors, not average Americans who are very worried about Joe Biden. Let's continue.
By the way, it's not about what's real all the time. It's about how people feel. People want to turn the page. I think that's fair to say. As a Democrat, I adore Joe Biden. He saved this country. He can cement his legacy. My real call to action right now is not about me. The call to action is to ask the president to pass the torch. There is an extraordinary bench of people ready to go, proximate,
who would you like to see in this
position.
race?
I would like to see a moderate governor, hopefully from the heartland, from one of the 4 states that Democrats will need.
So let's see, Gretchen Whitmer. You'd like to see her, or is it Tim Walz, your home state governor, Tony Evers? Help me out here.
You just said a few names I think would be great. Josh Shapiro. There are a number of people. J.B. Pritzker. Some people have asked me that I not use their names because of this institutional fear that it might impact you down the road. This is the time to meet the moment. And I'm doing something that I know it's unpopular as a Democrat, but I'm speaking truth. That's my job. My duty is to the people I represent, but also to represent the mass majority. And I want to say this about Democrats. It's really important. Joe Biden right now is down 7 points in the 4 swing states that will decide the next election. He has historically low approval numbers, Chuck. There are about 55% of Democrats would like to see an alternative. I can keep going down the list.
No,
the fact of the matter is
everything you're saying we've all heard in
right.
private as well. Why do you think it's all private? Why do you think this hand-wringing is only really gone public through you?
It's very simple. People are focused on self-preservation and not principle. There is no political reward in the United States right now for simply speaking the truth. Look at what happened to my Republican colleagues who dared do the right thing and support the Constitution. Support the Constitution, the only thing to which we're duty-bound. Look at what happened to them. It is not good to get out of line. It's not good to raise your hand, stand up, shout a little bit at a time we need it more than ever. And I'm afraid that that's the culture in this institution here in Washington, D.C.
Huh. Is he on here as a spokesperson for the donors? Or is he on here as a spokesperson, low-key, for Gretchen Whitmer or these other moderate heartland Democrats? Maybe both. Maybe he is a very, very not so subtly spokesperson for the entire Democratic establishment who wants to throw Joe Biden overboard, but is too chicken shit to do it publicly. So they're throwing this mannequin out there. That's what I think's going on. And by the way, the corporate media, Mr. Phillips and everybody who has pushed Gretchen Whitmer, if she primaries Joe Biden, Status Coup will have a lot to say. Not that we're fans of Joe Biden here, but Gretchen Whitmer, it is quite the opposite of the, softball, fluffy profiles that have been out there. She has abandoned Flint, broken her promises to the people of Flint, broken her promises to actually end the Flint water crisis, which is still ongoing almost 10 years later. The water is still toxic. There is no justice criminally, which I blame her for in part. And there's another environmental scandal going on in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where Gretchen Whitmer and her administration helped a multi-billion-dollar packaging company, Graphic Packaging, expand in 2021. They approved a $125 million bond deal for Graphic Packaging while knowing Graphic Packaging was poisoning a poor Black neighborhood in Kalamazoo with toxic levels of gases, which I covered on the ground in Kalamazoo. She knew about it. She's done nothing as people get sick and die in Kalamazoo, and her administration will not respond requests for comment from Status Coup or other reporters about it since it's went public. That's the moderate choice, or a billionaire governor in Illinois? Oy vey. But he is right. Biden is behind polling-wise in the core states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. And really, it's not really running for president of the United Corporations of America. It's really running for president of Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona now, Georgia. A couple states really decide the presidency. So Biden is not doing good in those states. Unless something radically changes, I think he's going to be vulnerable now in Michigan, Wisconsin, and even Pennsylvania. Michigan only won by 80,000 votes over Donald Trump. Wisconsin, 20,000 votes. Wisconsin, 20,000 votes. Michigan, 150,000 votes. Pennsylvania, 80,000 votes. That could be reversed relatively easy if the economic currents, among other things, are not kind to Biden and he doesn't actually take action to help people, i.e. executive actions that he could take. But make no mistake, this man, Dean Phillips, he doesn't want more competition. We have competition. Marianne Williamson's in there, whether you love her or she's not your cup of tea. She's certainly way more progressive than Biden. RFK Jr. is in there, certainly not my cup of tea, but he's in there. He's at least good on the environment, better than Biden would be. But Dean Phillips and the Democratic establishment and the donors, they want more corporate competition. They want more puppets that they know they will pull their strings. That's the kind of competition Mr. Phillips wants. Now let's move on to what I found to be really the core interesting part of this that kind of shows, is he really on there of free will? Is he really on there because he's just so passionate and worried? Or is he a glorified spokesperson for the corporate ghouls that run the Democratic Party, the donors?
The case against what you're talking about is basically the history of our lifetimes, okay? You go back, the last 4 sitting presidents who had serious primary challengers, that party lost the White House.
But Chuck,
why did they? We can go back to LBJ, but also Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush.
But why were they primaried? Because people recognized they were weakened. The country was ready to turn the page. Now we could have an hour debate on this subject. I understand that. I don't want to be. I ran for Congress in 2016. After the 2016 election, I woke up that next morning. My teenage daughters were in tears. I promised them I would do something. I'm not going to be quiet now, 5 years later, when the same trauma could be afflicting the country if Donald Trump is reelected. So I will do nothing to ensure that Donald Trump is reelected. But Chuck, it's really important that people know this. I'm doing just the opposite. And if people aren't willing right now to have that conversation, to have the discussion, and most importantly, to present some alternatives, how in the world are we going to look at these numbers and say everything's okay? But hopes and dreams and prayers, I love them. They don't solve gun violence. They don't give health insurance to Americans, right? And they sure as heck won't change the numbers that I'm seeing right now.
Have you talked to Joe Manchin? You want him to run in a Democratic primary instead of as an independent for no labels?
I want anybody who wants to run, Joe Manchin, Cornel West, any of the governors.
You want him in the primary?
In the primary. That's why we have primaries, because that doesn't undermine the likelihood of returning, in this case, a Democrat to the White House. So that is the key. Enter the primary, my friends. Everybody who is on the bench, meet the moment. Don't wait 5 years. We need you now.
When are you going to make a decision? You're waiting for somebody who you said with
I'm not
bigger
waiting.
name to come in. How long are you going to wait?
Waiting is like hopes and prayers.
Yeah.
I'm actively inviting, encouraging, to some degree imploring that people who are ready and know it's probably time to do so, take the chance.
You met with donors. Are they directly going to some of these candidates and pleading with them to get in or not?
Well, Chuck, if donors and average, everyday, wonderful, normal Americans are coming to me, of all people, you don't think they're approaching those people in much higher numbers with even more frequency? No, I know. No, I know they are. Okay. And I'll make the decision once I do my darndest in the next month or so to encourage others to do so. Please, this is an appeal to everybody of good conscience and good character. Let's turn the page and imagine how fun, hopeful, and exciting it would be. We're going to do it.
Dean Phillips, Democrat from suburban Minnesota. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Chuck.
But you have alternatives. You keep pretending like you don't have alternatives. Chuck Todd, in the beginning of this segment, referenced minor candidates, Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr., which, frankly, as has been mentioned on social media, is very Ministry of Truth. Who are you, Chuck Todd, to call them minor candidates? Who are you, Dean Phillips, to not refer to the candidates that already exist? There's two other candidates. In 2016, there was only 4 candidates for the Democratic primary: Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and for a hot minute, Martin O'Malley and Lincoln Chafee. Nobody was screaming about, we need more competition. So now you have 2, but that's not enough. Why is that? Why is it that Dean Phillips, if he wants competition, calling on the DNC to hold debates right now with Joe Biden, Marianne Williamson, and RFK, while also inviting others in if he wants that? Seems like he's just kind of erasing the candidates that do exist.
You met with donors. Are they directly going to some of these candidates and pleading with them to get in or not?
Well, Chuck, if donors and average, everyday, wonderful, normal Americans are coming to me, of all people, you don't think they're approaching those people in much higher numbers with even more frequency? No, I know. No, I know they are.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding. United Corporations of America. He just gave away the game. He is on there as a spokesperson, a liaison for the donors, pretending to be on there because of his just moral concern for the sanctity and future of democracy. He met with New York City donors and they made a deal. Hey, throw yourself out there. You'll be the sacrificial lamb. Yeah, Biden, his inner circle will be pissed with you. They'll try to backbench you in Congress. Biden will be yesterday's news in possibly a year, definitely 2 or 3 years, and we'll back you for Senate or governor or possibly the presidency in the future. That's why he's on there. Very, very transparent. He's not really a good actor. The donors asked him to get on there because the donors want Biden to step away, to deliver the bridge, to cross the bridge to the future, as Biden once said. I'm just a little bridge to the future. But I think this is a very evident and not so subtle display of an empty vessel showing up in the corporate media on behalf of the donors who desperately want Biden out.